What do you say? Good morning, everybody. Great to see you this Thursday morning, April 17. Can you believe it? Here we are, the Bill Press Show, live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and we're on Capitol Hill, right in the middle of the action. We'll tell you what's going on here in Washington. Not a hell of a lot with the Congress out of town. I'll tell you what's going on around the country and around the globe. Some big stories to follow. And most importantly, we will open up the phones and the social media to hear from you as to what you think about it all. Remember, you can give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number. Join us on Twitter and send us your comments at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. President Obama yesterday out in Pittsburgh calling for something that just makes a lot of sense to match the skills that companies need in workers with the skills that are being taught people looking for a job, and do all of that at our great community colleges around the country. Makes a lot of sense. We should have been doing that a long time ago. And the president, with the vice president at his side, announced $600 million in federal grants to community colleges to make that happen around the country. Meanwhile, Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York, is back in politics in a very personal and important way, pledging $50 million to build a new grassroots organization about gun violence, looking for common sense measures to reduce gun violence and, in effect, taking on the NRA. A great movement, a great idea, and good for Michael Bloomberg for doing that. And in Oklahoma, the governor of Oklahoma has signed a bill which bans cities and counties from raising the minimum wage. What an idiot. That and a lot more coming up right here on this morning's program. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Bill Press Show.
Well, what do you say? Good morning, good morning. Just made it this morning. Great to see you. It is Thursday, April 17. We're here. We're ready to go, just about, for the Bill Press Show for the next 3 hours, bringing you the news of the day. Wherever it's happening, we're there. We're on top of it. We'll tell you what's going on, and most importantly, give you a chance to tell us what you think about it. So good to see you this Thursday morning. Still a little chilly here in Washington. I don't know. Maybe we'll get back to spring one of these days. But I noticed that both Peter and I have gone back to sweaters.
It's sweater weather, man.
Yeah. We went from shorts and T-shirts back to sweaters here. I'm telling you, God, can't keep up with it. Wherever you happen to be, hope you're having starting off to have a great day. Thank you for starting the day with us. And don't forget how to join the conversation. 866-55-PRESS. That's your ticket, your toll-free number. 866-55-77-377. On Twitter, we're at BP Show. And on Facebook, facebook.com/Bill Press Show. The aforementioned Peter Ogburn leading up the team here with Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Good morning. Happy Thursday.
And good news. Everything seems to be working this morning.
Yeah, it's like a whole new world.
Gosh, the internet is up. The clock is on the right time. The extra microphone is working. We think. We haven't tested it yet.
Of course we've tested it.
We've tested it. But we haven't had a person in the chair.
We have. We're just not a guest
We have?
yet.
Oh, not a guest in the chair. Okay. All right.
Made
Good.
sure.
In the middle of the night, we're here all night working on that extra microphone. So we think we're here full of gas this morning, ready to go.
We're here.
Alicia Cruz on the phones, ready for your calls. And Cyprian Bolding with the assistance of Monty Canceller. We're getting so complicated, we have to have two videographers now today.
That's right.
To keep us going here, right?
That's right.
We've added
So we should look twice as good.
We've added so many cameras in the in following the lead of Congressman Vance McAllister from Florida. We have cameras everywhere so we can catch everything that's going on.
That's right.
We don't want any hanky panky in the studio.
Not in this building.
At least not that we don't see.
That's right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, as long, if it's in front of the camera, that's all. That's all very good. Yes. So, did you know that there's a new TV series getting a lot of attention called Fargo?
I've seen the ads for this.
I haven't seen it yet. I've seen the ads for it. It just everybody sort of winces because how can anything be as good as the movie?
Exactly.
I had that same reaction. The movie is so good, but the series is getting very good reviews. They say it's very good.
It is, and Billy Bob Thornton says, they've captured the spirit of the Coen Brothers movie, which I have watched countless times and would watch again today. Right, here's Billy Bob.
Noah Hawley had written a beautiful pilot. It was just, the writing was so good. And what he did was he managed to capture the tone and the spirit of the Coen Brothers movie without imitating them. He made a new animal, and yet it still seems like Fargo. And what it really is it's kind of what happens in that area of the country after the movie, So
after the movie.
Different characters, different story, but the same tone as the movie.
I'm excited to watch that.
The woman who plays that,
Frances McDormand.
Is that her name?
Yeah,
Frances McDormand.
yeah, she's amazing in that movie.
Unbelievable. Yeah, she is so good and so real.
Yeah.
William H. Macy, too, is so great in that movie.
He's great in it.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that the hero or heroine in that movie is a very pregnant female police officer in the middle of nowhere.
I know.
In deep snow in Fargo.
Don't you know?
So, we'll have to watch the TV
I am going to watch it.
Yeah,
I'm definitely
just at least watch one segment and see if it's as good as they say it is.
Yeah.
Coming up, George Zornick from The Nation joins us as he does every Thursday morning. And Michael Tomasky from the Daily Beast. I haven't seen him in a while. One of our favorite guests will be here as a friend of Bill in the last hour, our third hour together. And very excited that he and I will have an opportunity to talk to Katie McGinty, friend of mine who is a candidate for governor of Pennsylvania. Great woman with a great resume. You'll love to hear from her, and she'll be the next governor of Pennsylvania. And the income gap. Income inequality. That's what the Pope and the President talked about. It keeps getting wider and wider and wider. Wait till you hear the latest numbers. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Bill, we all know what happened to Adolf Hitler in the days after World War II. He killed himself. However, there are some newly released FBI files that show that they weren't so sure what had actually happened to him, and they were following up on some leads from all around the world.
They thought it could have been a fake.
They thought it could have been a fake. One of them shows that they thought that he might have escaped by submarine to Argentina, where he lived in a heavily guarded ranch at the end of the Second World War. Another one thought that he was living in New York City without his mustache. They took these claims so seriously, they actually went to Argentina to investigate, see if they could find Adolf Hitler. They never did, but they were actually taking them very seriously. These files were released yesterday, so
I wonder if any
fascinating stuff.
Phony Adolf Hitlers were arrested.
In Pembroke Pines, Florida, a man went to court because he was busted with possession of Xanax. He got in front of the judge. The judge asked him his name, and the man said, "My name is..."
Rush Limbaugh.
Oh.
It's after that. It's not actually not as funny as that. The man stood up. He said his name is Edward Cocaine.
Oh.
The judge laughed, could not contain himself, continued laughing, and said, I thought I'd seen it all. And then he asked the man, how many times have you been pulled over by police because of your name? And he says, every time I get pulled over, they ask me to step out of the car because his name is Edward.
Edward Cocaine. It really is?
Yeah, it really is his name. And you know the drill when you...
Busted.
Yeah, right. You know the drill. Whenever you fly these days, you can't take food through the TSA. This woman found out the hard way. She tried to take an enchilada through the Charles Schultz Sonoma County Airport in California. Problem is, not the enchilada. That's what tipped the TSA off. But when they got the enchilada, they looked, and she had an 8.5-inch long knife.
No way.
Inside the enchilada.
Whoa.
So if you're going to try and smuggle something illegal onto a plane, don't try and smuggle it inside of something that's already illegal.
What was she thinking?
Onto an airplane. They are going to review the case, and we'll see what happens to this one.
Was the knife for the enchilada?
It might have been. It might have been.
I have to tell you, that's a very small airport. That's in Petaluma, California. That's where Charles Schultz, creator of Peanuts, lived. And that's a very small regional airport. So I'm even surprised they have a TSA there.
They do.
Obviously, they were on the job.
Yep. There you go.
14 minutes after the hour now. Yes, indeed. There are three related stories that I saw yesterday that kind of all, at least in my mind, they all sort of come together around the same central issue, which is income inequality. And so let me just mention two of them, but dwell on the third. The first one is, it was reported yesterday, and it's a lead story in Huffington Post this morning, that the Koch brothers, Charles and David Koch, I wrote my book about them, The Obama Hate Machine. At the time that I did, which was 2 years ago, they were the third and fourth richest men in America. Their combined wealth, $50 billion. It's reported yesterday that they've done pretty well in the last couple of years. Their combined wealth now is $100 billion for Charles and David Koch, which is like, yeah, there's a lot wrong with that, but still, it's their money, right? The problem is they use the way they use their money. They use their money. Let's put the contrast out there, right? Michael Bloomberg yesterday saying, I'm going to put $50 million of my money into trying to get some sensible measures to deal with gun violence in this country to save lives. And what do the Koch brothers use their money for? The Koch brothers use their money to support the Keystone Pipeline, to gut environmental regulations, to get rid of the EPA, and to elect Republican politicians who will vote basically for whatever the oil companies want. I mean, that's the problem with the Koch brothers. And so let's leave that out there now. The second item, which I saw, which got my attention, again, all related, at the other end of the spectrum, attempts here in Congress we know have stalled to raise the minimum wage. So the president has called on businesses on their own to raise the minimum wage, and on states and cities on their own to raise the minimum wage. Well, that's worked in a lot of areas. Out in just south of Seattle, they raised the minimum wage up to about $15, I think, in that one city out there. California, the state of California, Jerry Brown just signed legislation raising the minimum wage to $10. But don't try it in Oklahoma. Yes. The mayor of Oklahoma yesterday, Mary Fallon, signed legislation banning cities and counties from raising the minimum wage. Also, the law bans cities from requiring that employees receive a certain number of sick days or vacation days, paid or unpaid. In other words, she said cities can't do anything to help average workers or to help workers who are making the minimum wage. I mean, signed a law. So, this is just so outrageous. And it also contradicts everything the Republicans say they stand for, which is local government. Yeah. Let local government decide.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you talk about helping people who need it. You know, I mean, there are people out there who are hurting. There are people out there who have gotten left behind financially and economically. And of all the things that are going on today, of all the problems that are out there that need to be addressed, making sure that people don't make a living wage seems pretty low on the list of things that needs to be done. And in
Oklahoma, again, it's not only the state refuses to do it, but the state will not allow any city or any county to do it. Now, the third item that caught my attention, and all related here, is the AFL-CIO put out its latest report. It's up on their website, aflcio.org. Check it out. It's great stuff. Scary stuff. Staggering information about the income inequality in this country and how that gap between the very, very rich and your average worker is getting wider and wider and wider. Their report shows, and this is based on all the latest figures from 2013, that the average so the average worker today makes $16.94 an hour. That's a minimum wage. That's the average worker, $16.94 an hour. The ratio from the CEO to your average worker today, right, is now. Let's get this. Back in 1950, it was 20-1. Okay? In 1980, it was 42-1. In 2000, it was 120-1. So again, keeps getting wider and wider and wider. Last year, 331-1.
Gee.
And the ratio between what the average CEO makes, by the way, which is $11.7 million a year, average of 350 CEOs they looked at, average $11.7 million. The New York Times, by the way, did a survey. They commissioned a survey of the top 100 CEOs. That average is $13.9 million. So the ratio CEO to your average worker is 331 today to 1. The CEO to the minimum wage worker, the ratio is 774 to 1. That is just obscene.
What are we talking about?
What? I mean, yeah.
Oh, my God.
No, the trickle down, nothing's trickling down, right? And what gets me is they say, well, these CEOs they're compensated based on their performance and that they've raised the value of the stock. Well, they're not the only ones who did it. Everybody in the freaking company had some role in it. So you would think if they're giving all these stock preferences to the CEOs and all this extra salary because the company's doing well, then everybody ought to share in that wealth. Or is that too socialistic a concept? So, by the way, what does that ratio really mean? Again, thanks to the AFL-CIO for breaking it down. Let's take the president of Walmart, Michael Duke. He's not, by the way, he's in the top 100, but he's not near the top. Mm-hmm. All right. He makes measly $20 million a year, $20,693,545 $545 a year.
How does he make it on that?
Yeah, how's he managed to get by on that? But anyhow, it would take your minimum wage worker. He would have to work, get this, 1,372 hours to make as much as Michael Duke makes in 1 hour.
1 hour.
Now, I figure that's about 191 8-hour days, I think, or something like that, which is roughly, what, 6 months?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I mean, we'll do the math during the break, right?
Yeah.
Every minimum wage worker would have to work 1,372 hours to make as much as this dude, Michael Duke, head of Walmart, makes in 1 hour. And the minimum wage worker can't even afford to shop at Walmart.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. Here's the question. What can we do about this growing gap between the very, very wealthy and your average worker in this country? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. Raising the minimum wage for one, right? That's a good place to start, even if you do live in Oklahoma.
This is the Bill Press Show. It's happening to you.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're gonna do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory, my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You know you like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him, because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, you heard the numbers. Average American worker, $16.94 an hour. That's $35,000, roughly $35,000 a year. Average CEO, $11.7 million a year, and it would take a minimum wage worker 1,372 hours, Peter. That's 191 8-hour days. That's 6 months of the year to make as much as the head of Walmart makes in 1 hour. What's it worth? Why even do it? Almost at that point. What do we do about it? Helen has got some ideas up in Ithaca, New York, on WNYY. Hello, Helen.
Hi. Good morning.
Yes.
Well, I don't have any new ideas. Like, why don't we go back to some old ideas, like how the taxation worked during the Eisenhower years, during the Kennedy years, during the Johnson years, during the Nixon years. Like, we need a more progressive tax rate because this country is going down the river. I don't know, like our infrastructure is falling apart. Everything is going to poo-poo. And if somebody doesn't want to, like, pay their taxes, then why don't they go to Somalia or something?
Got it, Helen. Yeah, make them pay higher taxes. That's one way to
is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, your next venture.
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org. to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Yes, here we go. At a Catholic. Talk about the problem of income inequality. Remember, it's the one thing that President Obama and Pope Francis talked about when they were together on March 27. Because it's not just a problem that affects the United States, it's a worldwide problem, but it's particularly serious here in the United States, where, as we were reporting, the gap now between the CEO and your average worker is 331 in terms of pay, 331 to 1. From the minimum for the minimum wage worker, it's 774 to 1. It does raise the question in terms of what to do about it, which is I love your thoughts on at 866-55-PRESS. I mean, certainly the least we could do is raise the minimum wage. I think we got to be talking about more than that. We've got to be talking about a decent living wage, I think, for all workers. We got to be talking about a way of sharing the wealth and the success of any given company with all the employees who work there, not just the CEO or members of the board of directors. And, I wonder seriously whether we ought to be talking about not just a minimum wage, but a maximum wage. I mean, why the hell do you have to make so much money? Well, I'm sorry, what can you do with it? It does seem to me there are limits on what you can spend and what you can give to your grandchildren, right? I mean, 774 times what the minimum wage worker is working, or 331 times what your average worker is making. Yeah, I think that's a tad excessive.
It's here's what I think it makes this point in your favor, right? Is if you create a company and it becomes wildly successful and it's your idea and you're in charge of it, or you put someone in charge of it.
You deserve to make a lot of money.
Make a ton of money.
Right.
Make money hand over fist.
Right.
Several houses, expensive cars, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Good for you. It's the American dream. But if you're going to treat the people that work for you
like
that continue to make that product such a good, well-liked, well-selling product, if you treat them like crap, then you don't deserve all that money.
Yeah, so and
a disproportionate amount of money.
So it used to be back in 1950, it was this average the ratio of CEO pay was 20-1. Okay, I just want to announce today, okay, to if any of the members of the board of trustees of Walmart are watching or listening, okay, I would be willing to take Michael Duke's job at 20-1.
That's not bad.
Okay, 20-1.
It's not bad.
I won't go below that. I mean, come on, I have a little self-respect here, right? But I think there are a lot of good, talented business people out there, right, who have a business background like I don't, who would take it at 100-1 or 50-1 or 20-1. You don't have to pay him 331 times what the average worker at Walmart is making.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, and maybe, again, there should be just a max, whatever it is. $10 million a year? I wouldn't complain. Matthew's calling from Portland, Oregon. What's the way out of this, Matthew?
Well, I remember a few years back I was in the Philippines and had to go to the hospital, the emergency room, for 4 hours. And I expected a huge bill. And when I had to go to pay, they charged me $16. I couldn't believe it. And I asked why that is, and they said because they have a cap on how much certain professions can make in the medical field and in other fields. So,
really?
Yeah, to pass legislation like that would definitely help. I mean, let's be reasonable. You're very right in what you say.
Yeah. I had the same experience in France. I remember in Switzerland, I broke my leg skiing, and I had to have an operation. I was in the hospital for 3 or 4 days, and the bill was $0.
It's incredible.
Yeah, because they have a single payer health plan there. But I hadn't heard that like in the Philippines it was due because they had a cap on how much people in the medical profession there could make. Judy is up in Dorchester, Mass. Hello, Judy. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good.
And what's your thought about this?
I think legislation is the key. We need to have legislation that benefits laborers as a whole, the working class. Kind of like Cuba. We get the 60% and let them get 40%.
Yeah. Give the CEO 40% and spread the rest of the 60% among all the workers. The problem, Judy, is that the legislation has to be passed by this Congress, and this Congress so far, right, dominated by the filibuster in the Senate and the Tea Party in the House, have been. I mean, they have gone out of their way to block everything that would help the middle class in this country. And their record today is they go into these midterm elections, and their platform is, we oppose extending unemployment benefits, we oppose raising the minimum wage, we oppose equal pay for women, the Paycheck Fairness Act, and by the way, we also oppose health care for all Americans. We just want to repeal it and replace it with nothing. Now, it seems to me Democrats have a great case to make against that platform.
I think they should make a bumper sticker. If you make 331 times the average worker, vote Republican. Like that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
If not, then,
Or if you think
the
CEO should make 331 times what your average worker makes, vote Republican.
Vote Republican.
Beverly in St. David, Illinois. Beverly, what do you say?
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
A long time talking to you.
Yeah, how about it? Good to have you back. What's up?
I got 2 points. One, get more unions.
Yes.
We need more union workers.
Yes, absolutely. And those workers who are doing best are those workers who are benefiting from the union organizing done by the people who went before them. What's your second point?
Second point. Is this imperial governor in Oklahoma, isn't that bill unconstitutional?
I think it's definitely unconstitutional, Beverly. It's got to be challenged. I mean, the state cannot prevent city governments, right, from doing what's best for that city or for that county. At least the way I read the Constitution. But, that doesn't mean she can't sign it, right? Then it's got to be challenged in the courts. And again, it's not only unconstitutional, it's antithetical to everything Republicans say that they stand for, which is local government.
Yeah.
The level of government closest to the people makes the best decisions on most issues, right? Education, the street repairs, all that kind of basic stuff, right? Well, not when Mary Fallon's governor, and not with the business community. The Chamber of Commerce of Oklahoma, went to Mary Fallon and said, "You can't let cities do this." Yeah, and that idiot signed the bill. Benjamin in East. Oh boy, that's a challenge here. East Carondelet, Illinois. Is that right?
Carondelet, but close enough.
Carondelet. All right. Hi, Benjamin.
Hi there. I am not a liberal per se. I consider myself a syndicalist. The emphasis is more on, it's less on a redistributive state and more on direct control by unions of, industrial production and the like.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder, to a certain extent, I guess this is inimical to the American left because they've sort of latched on to the tradition of the New Deal and sort of the top-down bureaucratic capitalist state. But I really would like to test the water here and get your opinion and see if, okay, we have tried, New Deal, and we've expanded it with the Great Society, and for the past 50 or 60 years, that's been the basic framework that the American left has operated in to a greater or lesser degree. And I wonder if, basically I think that the American people are hostile to the idea of the government. I don't necessarily think that they're hostile to the idea of social equality. And so I wonder if you packaged it with ideas taken from certain syndicalist or even anarchist traditions, even though most people are going to laugh at the word, if that might not be an easier sell in the long term.
I think it would be a tougher sell, Benjamin. Without getting into too much detail, I think basically most American people still, despite the Republican propaganda, the right-wing propaganda, still support the concept of the New Deal, still support the principles of the New Deal, and I just wish we could get back to the policies of the New Deal. I think would be best in this country. I think the more we've gotten away from it, the more this income inequality gap has widened and widened and widened because we've gotten away from the principles of the New Deal. Great discussion, folks. This conversation will continue. We'll touch on a little bit later with Michael Tomasky as well, who has just written about income inequality. But we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, talk to George Zornick from The Nation magazine. The Nation, by the way, also doing some really good stuff on income inequality. 866-55-PRESS, toll-free number. Stay with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour right now. At the top of the next hour, we're going to jump up to New York to check in with the New York Auto Show. It's always a very exciting time of the year. I went to one of the auto shows a couple of years ago. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. See the new cars that are out and find out what's hot up there right now. We've been talking about the problem of income inequality. As I mentioned, The Nation magazine has been devoting a lot of articles to this topic. George Zornick is a Washington editor of The Nation, joining us on our news line this morning. George, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. One of the articles that you have written lately that caught my attention is about, there's actually, in terms of this income inequality, one of the ways of dealing with it, one of the ideas out there is having the very wealthiest people in this country pay a little bigger share of taxes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the only income group. If you look since 2010, the group that has actually made money, that has seen their income go up, it's really only been the top 1%. Everyone else is either stagnating or has actually seen their real wages fall. So if you're looking for a place to get more tax revenue, it seems to make sense to take it from them because they're doing quite well, or corporations who, of course, are doing very well and have a lot of cash kind of stored up.
And there's a big difference, too, isn't there, between the top tax rate and what these people actually pay, because they're able to afford, obviously, the best lawyers and the best tax accountants in the country.
Yeah, I mean, if they get their wealth from from financial instruments or on Wall Street, which is one of the two is likely. I mean, even if they don't work on Wall Street, they probably have investments and capital gains and things like that. They don't even need a lawyer. The government says they don't have to pay that much. It's a very low rate. And beyond that, it's very easy for them to find deductions and outs and things. So, I mean, it's something where I think you need tougher enforcement, and you need frankly some different laws that treat gains from financial wealth the same as income.
But here's a problem, George, obviously, and you cover Washington, you know it better than anybody, is that to get this, you need a legislature or a Congress that's willing to pass this higher tax rate. I don't see. Are there any voices out there? Maybe Bernie Sanders, but any voices out there calling for higher taxes for the top 1%?
Well, it's sort of the routine thing that has been in the Obama budget. Putting in the Buffett rule and things like that. But the party hasn't really put a shoulder into it since the Bush tax debate sort of was resolved right after the last election. That was the big thing, was raising the rate. And they made a compromise. I believe it was incomes $450,000 and up instead of $250,000 and up. But once that sort of resolved itself, it just hasn't really been a starter. And I guess if you wanna give them a little bit of credit, it's just that is the one thing that Republicans, if there's anything they won't do, it's that they refuse to raise taxes. The only way that they technically agreed to raise them before is because it was expiring and it was going to happen. I mean, that's basically how the rates went up.
In the meantime, again, we're talking with George Zornick from The Nation, thenation.com. In the meantime, a couple of things that we could do to address this income inequality gap: raise the minimum wage, which Republicans have blocked, and also extend unemployment benefits, which Republicans have also blocked for, as you've pointed out, 11 different reasons. Any of them make any sense?
No, not at all. It's really hard to discern. I mean, some of them are just plain daffy reasons that, they say, well, it would be immoral or it would be a disservice to workers to unemployed people if we extend their benefits, things like that. And the other times it's just it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole. They say, well, it has to be paid for, and then the Democrats propose a bill that is paid for, and they say, no, it can't be paid for like that. We need a different pay for. What it is now, the Senate has passed out what is a bipartisan bill,
right,
to extend these benefits and to have it paid for. And in the House, Chairman Boehner says that it would be too complicated to enact, that we've waited too long, which is funny because everyone was trying to do this back in December, and Republicans are dragging their feet, and now they're saying, well, we waited too long.
Yeah. No, they promised to do it, right? They couldn't get it done in December before they went away for Christmas. They promised to do it as soon as they came back, and it took the Senate almost 4 months to do anything, and now the House says, they have waited too long, just excuse after excuse after excuse for not doing the right thing. Hey, George, thanks for staying on top of this stuff. Thanks for your good reporting. Thanks for your time this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Talk to you again soon. George Zornick from The Nation, thenation.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Again, in the next hour, we'll be talking a New York Auto Show and then politics and what's happening in Washington with Rebecca Sinderbrand from Politico. Peter.
Yesterday, Bill, Richard Trumka, president of the AFL-CIO, went on Reddit and did an Ask Me Anything session. And one of the questions he was asked was, what are your thoughts on Senator Elizabeth Warren? Richard Trumka said, in my opinion, quote, in my opinion, she is the prototype of a person we would want to be the president of the United States. She has a very well-defined set of values, and unlike many politicians, she actually sticks by those values and fights to implement them. In short, it don't get no better.
All right.
Never mind that Warren has not announced that she's running for president and said that she doesn't have any plans to, but Richard Trumka is an early supporter.
And did Richard Trumka say the AFL-CIO endorses Elizabeth Warren?
The AFL-CIO was quick to point out that they are not endorsing, but this is only his opinion.
Well, he certainly has a high opinion of Elizabeth Warren, as do I. Elizabeth Warren would make it. I agree with everything he said about Elizabeth Warren. Stay with us. Hour number 1 down. 2 more hours coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
What do you say? Good morning, everybody. Great to see you this Thursday morning, April 17. Can you believe it? Here we are, the Bill Press Show, live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and we're on Capitol Hill, right in the middle of the action. We'll tell you what's going on here in Washington. Not a hell of a lot with the Congress out of town. I'll tell you what's going on around the country and around the globe. Some big stories to follow. And most importantly, we will open up the phones and the social media to hear from you as to what you think about it all. Remember, you can give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number. Join us on Twitter and send us your comments at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. President Obama yesterday out in Pittsburgh calling for something that just makes a lot of sense to match the skills that companies need in workers with the skills that are being taught people looking for a job, and do all of that at our great community colleges around the country. Makes a lot of sense. We should have been doing that a long time ago. And the president, with the vice president at his side, announced $600 million in federal grants to community colleges to make that happen around the country. Meanwhile, Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York, is back in politics in a very personal and important way, pledging $50 million to build a new grassroots organization about gun violence, looking for common sense measures to reduce gun violence and, in effect, taking on the NRA. A great movement, a great idea, and good for Michael Bloomberg for doing that. And in Oklahoma, the governor of Oklahoma has signed a bill which bans cities and counties from raising the minimum wage. What an idiot. That and a lot more coming up right here on this morning's program. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Fired up and ready to go. We are on Thursday, April 17. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you. The Bill Press Show. Here we are in our nation's capital. Yeah, we're still here. Everybody else is out of town. The House and the Senate, at least. Part of their 2-week, if you please, 2-week Easter break. But we're here. President Obama's here. Vice President Biden is here. And we'll keep it interesting for you. Let you know what's going on. And you let us know what it all means to you. Good to have you with us this Thursday morning. Thanks for joining us on your local progressive talk radio station. Thanks for watching on Free Speech TV. And thanks for being with us all around the world on video stream Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Don't forget, you can give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. You know that by now, and you also know how to reach us on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. We're standing by to take your calls, take your comments, and again, bring you up to date on the news of the day. Thanks to our team, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
It's just the beginning. We also have Alicia Cruz there on the phones. Monty Kensler is our videographer for the day. Cyprian Balding was here earlier. He's slipped out to some undisclosed location.
Stealth operations.
I think he's down at Peregrine Coffee Shop down the first
yeah.
Which has been rated the fifth. What's it? The
fifth best coffee shop in the country.
In the nation, yeah.
Just one more reason. Forget the cherry blossoms. One more reason to come. Of course, they're gone anyhow.
Yeah, exactly.
One more reason to come to Washington is Peregrine Coffee. So here we are with, the political season. Very interesting. Some big races shaping up. One of the races that Democrats, one of the seats Democrats really don't have a lot of hope in picking up is that of John Boehner out in Ohio. And the Tea Party doesn't have real hopes of picking that up either. But there is a Tea Party candidate running against John Boehner. His name is Winterregg, J.D. Winterregg. He's trying to get attention any way he can. And so he came up with a very unusual ad against John Boehner, suggesting that John Boehner has a variation of a well-known disease. Let's let Mr. Winteregg's ad speak for itself.
You make a great team. It's been that way since the day you met. But your erectile dysfunction? It could be a question of blood flow. Sometimes when a politician has been in D.C. too long, it goes to his head, and he just can't seem to get the job done. Used on a daily basis, Winterregg in Congress will help you every time the moment is right to have your voice heard at the federal level. When using Winterregg, it's important to note that the borders will be secured, Second Amendment rights protected, Obamacare and Planned Parenthood will be defunded, and common sense will be used in solving the nation's problems. Other signs of erectile dysfunction may include extreme skin discoloration,
the inability to punch oneself out of a wet paper bag,
or maintain a spine in the face of liberal opposition. Amore di Gramine Verde. Smoking.
and golf. If you have a Boehner lasting longer than 23 years, seek immediate medical attention. Winterregg, because Boehner shouldn't count his chickens before they hatch.
It's Boner. I have to tell you, you take the ED joke a little too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But at any rate, I don't think we've had no official response from the Boehner campaign. And I don't think you're going to get any either. Anyhow, erectile dysfunction. Yeah, the line I like best is it can lead to discoloration of the skin.
Yeah.
Or as President Obama said at that White House correspondence, it's a color not found in nature.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. We'll start the hour going up to the New York Auto Show to find out what's hot up there this year. Michael Tomasky joins us from the Daily Beast as a friend of Bill in the next hour, and we'll be talking with Katie McGinty, Democratic candidate for governor in Pennsylvania. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of the stories making news. Are you ready for the NBA playoffs? They get underway here this weekend. And your Washington Wizards found out that they will be taking on the Chicago Bulls. That series starts on Sunday in Chicago. Other notable matchups, Miami Heat taking on Charlotte and Indiana Pacers taking on Atlanta in the Eastern Conference. Over in the West,
that should be some good basketball.
There are a lot of good matchups here. I'll be honest. San Antonio's taking on the Dallas Mavericks. That's always a heated rivalry. And Oklahoma City Thunder taking on Memphis. So again, that gets underway starting on Saturday, and we'll keep you posted on all the exciting news.
There we go.
Say hello to Biden-gram. Joe Biden joined Instagram yesterday. He started out with a picture of just a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses on his desk with the vice president in the background. He went on to post 4 pictures total yesterday, including one final one, a selfie of himself and President Obama. Just said the first selfie.
I thought they weren't going to do those anymore.
I guess they're not banning selfies. I guess they're not banning selfies.
But at least Joe wasn't working for Samsung.
No, he was not working for Samsung.
So far as we know.
No. And KFC announced yesterday that they are bringing back the mythical creation known as the Double Down. Do you remember the Double Down?
Yeah, I thought they...
It's 2 fried chicken breasts with bacon, cheese, and the Colonel sauce. In other words, it's a sandwich that uses fried chicken instead of bread. They're bringing it back. They had put it on the menu in 2010. They discontinued it not that long ago. They're bringing it back. They said that they sold 10 million sandwiches in the first month that the Double Down launched in 2010, and it was such a big hit. They're going to bring it back starting April 21st. So
why'd they take it away in the first place? Do you know?
I think people got tired of it, and they saw the success that McDonald's had with the McRib of just saying it's a special promotion. And then they just, when they put it on the menu, people just go buy it up like crazy.
All right. Okay. Head to your KFC, local KFC today
April
for the
21st,
Double
April
Down.
21st. Wait, a very special occasion.
But you can head up to New York to see the New York Auto Show. From the Washington Automotive Press Association, the president, Melanie Batenchuk, is up there. She has joined us before and joins us today on our newsline from New York City. Melanie, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. How are you doing today?
All right. So I was very excited to be able to go to this show a couple of years ago. What's hot this year at the New York Auto Show? What's all the buzz about?
Well, the buzz is definitely brands bringing out kind of their bread and butter vehicles. One thing we're seeing, SUVs and sedans are not going anywhere, and they're just becoming better looking, more reliable, more technologically advanced, and more fuel efficient.
So the SUV, when you say they're not going anywhere, you mean they are here to stay. Any changes? They're getting bigger, smaller, more of this kind of fancy electronic equipment on them, or what do you see?
All of the above. Land Rover just introduced a new concept for its Discovery vehicle, which was one of its staple SUVs that it's had for the last almost 30 years. And Jeep, on the counter end of that, introduced its new Renegade yesterday, which is its first compact SUV introduced as part of the new Fiat Chrysler automobile group.
Is a Jeep? You mean it's like a Jeep Cherokee, or?
It's like a small. It's kind of like a tiny Wrangler.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so they launched that yesterday. It's their first entrance into the small compact market.
Now,
but we're seeing it all across brands, from large to small.
I don't know what you call these, but you know these when you put a car in reverse now and you see this, you see the field behind you as you're backing up. What?
It's just a backup camera.
Backup camera. Are they standard on all new cars now?
Yeah, NHTSA put out a rule recommending that they become standard on all vehicles.
That's relatively recent, right? They now have to be put on cars moving forward.
They do, and this was for child safety. There were, I think, a couple of dozen deaths in past years of, accidents of backing over children or pedestrians. So this was an effort on NHTSA's behalf to increase kind of safety for drivers.
Yeah. And how about other electronic features? I mean, these cars, they seem to be getting, they're more and more distractions, I find, for driving in terms of the car talking to you, telling you to do this, telling you to do that. Peter, you've talked about some of those.
Yeah, I mean, the connected car is the big thing now, right? It's not just about CD players or hooking up your phone. It's actually like there's a data plan now with your car, kind of like a phone.
Pretty much. I mean, I think we're going through a very exploratory phase right now, not only on the fuel economy side, but on the technology side. And so automakers are playing around to see what they can make the cars capable of doing. And I think the phase that we're in right now is kind of that in between. We're not 100% there to a seamless technology when you get in the car and it already knows everything. But it is a lot smoother process to connect your phone up to the vehicle. Most cars are coming standard with Bluetooth connectability now. So we're seeing a lot of those luxury, luxury features coming down even to, I had a base model Kia Soul a couple weeks ago, and it had heated and ventilated seats. It had like a huge sunroof and all of these great features for under $20,000.
Whoa. Yeah.
It is amazing. I mean, the Bluetooth connectivity in cars now is very cool, but it really does provide so many more distractions. I mean, it's you could do anything, whatever you could do on your phone, basically, you could do in the car now.
Yeah. Now you mentioned fuel economy. Has that gotten lost in the mix, or are people still talking about that? And what do you find there on the floor?
It's definitely not lost. The cars that are being introduced are definitely bringing in more technologies, hybrid powertrains. There are going to be more diesels being introduced. Audi and even Jeep are bringing diesels more and more to the U.S. Because the diesel enthusiasts are really asking for it, and now we have a market for it. And it was just announced a couple weeks ago that we've hit the highest miles per gallon average to date at 25.4 mpgs for new cars. So we are moving forward for the corporate average fuel economy standards, all the while still bringing a wider variety of vehicles to the market.
That is impressive, 25.4 average MPG, but electric cars still like a passing fad, or are we moving more in that direction?
We're going to continue progressing on that front. I think what we saw earlier in the year with the LA Auto Show at the end of last year, Detroit, and the Consumer Electronics Show, it was very focused on green cars, advanced technology vehicles. What I'm seeing here in New York is the brands kind of their staple flagship vehicles, improving the looks and the functionality of them, but also the fuel economy, and just kind of reinvigorating cars like the new Toyota Camry, Mazda celebrating 25 years of its Miata, and just those staple vehicles. That
are the all-electric cars selling? I mean, is the Tesla selling?
They're selling. There was a large increase in 2013 over 2012 in green vehicle sales, largely because there were a lot more products available for people to choose from. It is still a very small, not even maybe about 1% of the total market, though. But the infrastructure is growing, and I think it's going to be a slow growth, but it's not. They're not disappearing by any means.
Hey, do they have any of the driverless cars there?
That's what I was going to ask next, yeah.
Because I see more and more stories about these driverless cars.
The thing that's interesting about those, I don't know that there's anything being displayed at the show this week, but you're seeing a lot of features that are semi-autonomous. So manufacturers are building cars that they can park themselves. Land Rover was talking about, because they have a lot of vehicles that go off-roading and rock climbing, that sort of thing, having a remote control that you can get out of the car and drive it up the hill.
Oh my
if you're by yourself. So there's so many semi-autonomous features.
A remote control full-size Land Rover. I mean, that's kind of amazing.
Why? What's the point?
Well, if you're on the edge of a cliff and you're the only one in the car, you want to make sure that you don't drive over it, I guess.
I have an idea. Don't drive that close to the edge of a cliff to begin with.
Some people are more adventurous than I am.
Maybe.
So, Melanie, you live in Washington. You know Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And as do I, living on Capitol Hill. And we park on the street. So we parallel park every day, right? That we use the car. I don't use the car every day. But so these cars that park yourselves, they really can parallel park?
Yeah, they use sensors on the front and back of the bumpers and probably some from aerial bird's eye view to sense where the vehicles are and the distance around it, and it'll guide the car in. And some do this more independently than others, but it is. I haven't tried it out yet, but I hear it's kind of freaky the first time you do it, but it's accurate.
I can't. And you have to be in the car while you're doing that, I guess? Yeah, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to see that, man. That is what I'm going to see, because half the people that come to Capitol Hill for the Eastern Market I can't parallel park, have no freaking idea how to do it. And if they can get a car that can do it, that might be the real game changer indeed. All right. Well, Melanie, I'm jealous that you're up there and we're not. But thanks for bringing us all the good news this morning. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Melanie Batenchuk is with the Washington Automotive Press Association. You can follow them at Wash Auto Press, washautopress.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, lawyer? He said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him, because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, Rebecca Sinderbrand from Politico joining us for the next half hour on the political front. A couple of quick news items. First, the DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, announces that it raised more money in March than any other March in their history. They've raised $10.3 million in March, which will certainly help in the effort to have Democrats take back control of the House this year. Also, success for 3 Democratic women running for Senate: Kay Hagan in North Carolina, Michelle Nunn in Georgia, and Allison Grimes in Kentucky raised more money than their Republican opponents, giving them a good heads up in those races.
Nice.
And the other news is New York State has become the latest state to join the National Popular Vote campaign. This is really big news. This is the effort to get around the Electoral College by having enough states agree that they will give all their electoral votes to the candidate that wins the popular vote. So we won't have a repeat of what happened in 2000. With New York State agreeing, they now have 165 of the 270 electoral votes needed to make this happen. That's 61% of the way there. This is really, really important, and a lot of progress adding New York State to the mix.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org. to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Show. Here we go. It is Thursday morning, April 17, 33 minutes after the hour. This is the Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live from our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Kind of quiet here on Capitol Hill these days because the House and the Senate are on their extended 2-week Easter break. But whatever's happening here and around the country, around the globe, we've got it covered, and we are brought to you today by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. Good men and women of the Teamsters Union under President Jim Hoffa. We all live better because of their good work, and you can find out more about all that they're up to at their website, teamster.org, teamster.org. In our next hour together, Michael Tomasky will be here as a friend of Bill for the entire hour. Michael Tomasky from the Daily Beast, from the New York Review of Books, and from the journal Democracy. And he and I will have a chance to interview Katie McGinty, who is a Democratic candidate for governor in Pennsylvania, one of the important governor's races this year. And Katie McGinty, a good friend of mine from the Clinton Bill Clinton, Al Gore days, and looking forward very much to talking with her this morning and also to seeing her take over as governor of Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, President Obama on the job. What's happening at the White House? We find out from just slipping into the studio here. Deputy White House editor for Politico, Rebecca Sinderbrand, a good friend of the program, and it's nice to welcome you back. Hi, Rebecca.
Good to see you.
How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Traffic heavy this morning?
Just a touch on Pennsylvania.
On Pennsylvania Avenue? Yeah.
We can't blame the cherry blossom traffic anymore because they're all gone. No one's here to see the cherry blossoms anymore.
It's kind of dramatic.
I know. Boom, gone.
I'm in denial.
And yesterday was Emancipation Day in Washington, which was very tough to get around traffic-wise on Pennsylvania Avenue. But I don't know what it is today. But anyhow, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. President Obama, so far this week at the White House, the briefings and a lot of almost the entire briefing and most of the president's time, I think, has been devoted on what the hell are we going to do about the Ukraine. Not a lot of options, right?
Not a lot of options at all. I mean, yesterday there was actually a background briefing for some reporters kind of building on the news that was out there, both about the non-lethal aid package, that wonderful phrase, and then also more information on these looming sanctions. People have been talking about this fresh round of sanctions, and now everyone's really in this wait-and-see mode to see what happens with Kerry today.
I know. These meetings, so the meetings in Geneva are with the Russian prime minister and the Ukrainian government,
right?
With Kerry mediating, kind of, right?
Right. And so what they're basically doing right now is they're looking to see the Russian behavior in the meetings, whether it looks like the Russians are really looking for a diplomatic solution. Look, what administration officials told our reporters yesterday was, the impression they got from Putin was not so much that he was looking for a diplomatic solution, but more he was feeling them out to see exactly how far he could go, which is not terribly surprising given what we've seen so far. So they're waiting to see if they get a different impression from Russian officials today.
Samantha Power said something yesterday, which I think everybody must realize. Elisa, if we have that clip, in terms of this, what we're seeing in eastern Ukraine is really, in the immortal words of Yogi Berra, deja vu all over again.
No, sure.
Here's Samantha Power.
The actions the world witnessed in Crimea and the denials of Russian involvement in the lead up to its illegal annexation and occupation are repeating themselves in eastern Ukraine.
It's the same play, isn't it? They send in these people, or they get the people, Russian-speaking people, Russian partisans who live in that area, right, to rise up and protest. Then Russia says, these people are being mistreated. We've got to come in and save them. And they end up gobbling up the territory.
Right. This is not a terribly new play, right? So, we've seen this before. But, the question is, of course, what the blowback is, whether it's significant enough that it tells them you can't go any further. And this is, again, what the case that administration officials are making. So, if you look at what's happened on the ground so far, there's not a terrible lot of evidence if Vladimir Putin feels like he's overplayed his hand. But they say, look, he massed troops on the border, but those huge masses of troops on the border didn't actually go in. Not yet, right? But they're pointing to that. They got kind of slim evidence that anything they're doing so far in terms of the sanctions, in terms of diplomatic pressure is working. But they're saying, it could be so much worse. This is, again, something we've heard from the administration before on a host of occasions. Things are bad, but hey, they could be a lot worse. It's a tough case to make when it comes to the economy. It's a tough case to make when it comes to, the role of the healthcare law. And it's definitely a tough case to make when you see Russian troops in Ukraine.
So close, right. And, we've sort of said, okay, not officially, but sort of unofficially, I think people have said, okay, Crimea, all right, we understand that because geographically it could easily look like it's part of Russia. It's always been. They've got this big base there. So Crimea will just kind of look the other way. But eastern Ukraine is a different story. We can't let them take any of eastern Ukraine. Is it really a different story? I mean, if they end up taking a little slice of eastern Ukraine, are we really going to go to war over that?
Well, I mean, military options are really a non-starter at this point in terms of the discussions that people are having, obviously.
For us and for Europe, right?
Exactly. The key is kind of sending that message because it's not just about Ukraine, right? So when you're talking about eastern Ukraine, you're also talking about all the other Russian neighbors that are kind of looking nervously and seeing what's happened here.
Yeah,
and so that's...
They could be next.
Right, exactly. And so that's the case. That's the kind of reassurance that they're trying to give, the signal they're trying to send Russia that, whatever you're looking for in terms of a sphere of influence, it stops here. And so, it remains to be seen exactly how well it's going to go. There is a case to make if you look at the empirical evidence right now. There is a case to make that there is some impact on the Russian economy. There is some impact on the Russian stock market.
On what we're doing. From what we're doing.
Right. Investors are uneasy and so on. I mean, the question is whether they continue to feel the pain, whether it gets worse, and B, whether it results in the kind of popular pressure that has any kind of impact. I mean, it hasn't been clear in the past that popular pressure has, or democratic push has any kind of an impact on Putin himself. So, it remains to be seen.
Plus, the other complication, I guess, is that we really do need or want Russia's assistance dealing with Iran and dealing with Syria, which are bigger fish to fry.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing, of course, is while the diplomatic focus is here right now, of course, the president is getting ready to head off to Asia in just a couple of days. And, a lot of nervous nations there as well looking to China. And so that Asia pivot we've heard again and again, the administration's insisting it's happening. It's hard to make the case when, it seems as though just the lion's share of the focus diplomatically is either on kind of managing the collapse of the Middle East peace process or on dealing with the situation in Ukraine.
Right. The president heading off to Asia tomorrow. He'll be there almost all week. I think he leaves Tuesday, right? And he's gone for the rest of the week.
Yeah, he's gone for an entire week.
For an entire week. And there's an article in the New York Times this morning that some of the Asian nations are a little nervous about, as you've just pointed out, the pivot to Asia, which was announced, the president announced a couple of years ago, I think, right? Or the administration used that phrase. We're going to focus now because we are not just an Atlantic power, but a Pacific power as well.
This is America's first Pacific president jetting off.
Yeah. We haven't seen a real pivot to Asia, have we?
No, and
despite the talk.
And there's also the very real prospect that the president's trip to Asia could well be dominated by headlines out of Ukraine and Russia.
In fact, there was a question at the briefing Tuesday whether or not the president might postpone his trip to Asia in order to deal with the Ukraine.
To repostpone it.
To repostpone it, right. Yeah. Which would be the ultimate insult,
That's right.
I guess. The president did take time out yesterday. He's trying to focus on the economy whenever he can, right. And on jobs, sort of a populist, if you will, alternative to what the Republican Party is offering these days, to something that I've talked about. I remember back when I was working for Jerry Brown. So this was when first time he was governor 100 years ago, right? And one of the things we talked about was you've got to have community colleges teaching people the skills that businesses need for today's economy. And there was a president talking about that again yesterday. A very, very smart idea.
Right.
I just don't know why aren't we doing more of it, and why is it taking this long?
It's one of those golden oldies, right?
It is. Yeah. No, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. I mean, you hear this from presidents all the time. Of course, now the question is whether that's even enough in this economy with the structural changes to this economy. So you have some people in the Democratic Party saying, that's all well and good. That's great. But at the same time, there's changes that education and retraining just aren't going to address at this point. So you don't hear a lot of talk about exactly how you address it if the workers aren't the piece that changes.
Yeah. But, I mean, it just makes sense to put those together. The businesses say, these are the skills we need, right, to compete in today's economy. And then the classes, the schools say, these are the courses that we offer to train people and to equip them with these skills for these businesses. So you put those two together, bingo, and then you do it through the community colleges, which are out there, which are great institutions. And the president putting $600 million on the line yesterday. Hopefully that'll get some more action.
And it's worth noting, we're seeing him out there a lot now. This is more travel from the president than we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, at least once a week he's out on the road. At least once a week,
that's right.
With this economic message. And the question, we'll explore this further with Rebecca when we come back, whether that is a counterpoint and an effective counter to where the Republicans hope to put all their energy into repealing Obamacare, as we know, in 2014. Rebecca Sinderbrand with us. She's Deputy White House Editor for Politico. You are invited to join the conversation. We'll find room for you at the table here at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. Yes, indeed. Rebecca Sinderbrand in with us. From Politico, Michael Tomasky, the Daily Beast, will be here as a friend of Bill in the next hour, and we're going to be talking to Katie McGinty, Democratic candidate for governor in the Keystone State, Pennsylvania. Rebecca, Peter, with some breaking news here.
I had to get this in because this is just so wild. So Vladimir Putin does this annual press conference in Moscow every year, and he sits down with a moderator, and he takes screened questions from voters, or not voters, but just citizens of Russia, right? And so he took a couple of questions, and then a video link of Edward Snowden pops up. And I'm getting some of this from our friend Igor Volsky.
Oh, he's a Russian citizen.
Progress. Yeah, he is a Russian citizen.
Close enough.
No,
So
resident.
He's a resident. So Snowden shows up and asks Vladimir Putin if he had ever intercepted or analyzed communication between citizens. And Putin says Russia does not conduct massive uncontrolled surveillance, that they have laws against that. I hope we don't do that, and we don't have the money or technical devices that they have in the United States. In the scene, Edward Snowden is now a Russian piece of propaganda.
So first, we thank our friend Igor Volsky from
Thanks,
Think
Igor.
Progress for informing us of this latest development. Putin, who believes that? Nobody believes that. I mean, he's
Gambling,
a
what gambling?
KGB. I mean, they taught the NSA everything they know, right, about spying on individual citizens.
So, yeah, our reporters have already reached out to the White House for comment. I'm sure they'll have some very choice things to say about this response.
Yeah, and indeed, and it's too bad that Edward Snowden allowed himself to be used that way, because it just takes away his credentials as a truth teller.
And the question is, you think to yourself, did he think he was speaking truth to power in that moment? Like, what had to be going through his head there?
Yeah, I think if you're going to try and make yourself out to be some sort of like a truth seeker or a patriot, and I did this for the good of the American
And I
people
still
deserve to know,
believe him.
then you can't be used.
No.
You can't be used as a pawn like that for Vladimir Putin.
No, I still consider him a whistleblower, not a traitor. But his whistleblower credentials, are a little tarnished by being in bed with Vladimir Putin.
Appreciate his actions. Maybe don't embrace him, the person, so much.
So, Rebecca, will clearly the White House, with the president on the road, as you pointed out, at least once a week on economic issues, is trying to counter the Republican efforts to repeal Obamacare. That's their whole campaign for 2014, with a White House effort. Basically economic populism, raise the minimum wage, extend unemployment benefits, equal pay for women, Paycheck Fairness Act, and health care for all Americans. Is it going to work?
Well, that's the $64,000 question. I mean, certainly they hope so. And, you're seeing them out there with this message. We've seen them also
Income inequality, right? President talked about that.
And we saw kind of a few days ago, we saw them making like their first concerted push. There was on the fair pay for women, right?
Yes.
And so you had this concerted push from the White House, messaging from the White House, from the president, from the campaign committees, from liberal groups on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
All working in concert together, and we're going to expect to see more of this in different kind of prongs of the economic agenda that they've been pushing this year. And they seem to think, they point to the numbers, they point to the focus group, the polling, they say this is going to resonate. It's going to resonate wide, and more importantly, it's also going to resonate with the people they want to turn out. So it's going to resonate with women specifically, because they need women to turn out in greater numbers. The question is whether it will resonate with the people Democrats want to turn out the same way the anti-Obamacare message resonates with the other side.
Got it. Now, you mentioned you are looking forward to another Clinton document dump tomorrow.
That's right.
What
Brace
can we
yourself.
expect?
Well, let's see. It's going to be interesting because this one is a lot larger than the last one. There's 7,500 pages to be released tomorrow on a host of issues. You're going to have the healthcare task force files coming out.
Oh.
You're going to have
Ira Magaziner.
You're going to have, you remember there was a famous White House memo during that era about, the conspiracy of communication, and talking about that people within the White House and the way they reacted to all the kind of conspiracy mongering against Clinton. It got a lot of buzz. The kind of the internal communication about that is going to be coming out. Clinton's communication with his spiritual advisors, that's also going to be released. There's all kinds of intriguing subject lines in this, including the very vague Bilderberg conferences, which is raising some eyebrows online. That is indeed a subject line of that is going to be released tomorrow. Documents coming from the Clinton Presidential Library. So all kinds of very intriguing material. Could be nothing. Could be some fantastically entertaining
juicy
stuff. We'll see.
Coming out tomorrow or tonight?
Tomorrow, coming out Friday, 1 p.m.
Oh, damn. I was just thinking about our show tomorrow morning. Yeah, we could do 3 hours worth of that. But, well, Monday.
We'll be live. Monday.
Hey, Rebecca, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming in today. Rebecca Sinderbrand, Politico, Politico.com, of course.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, what do you say? Hour number 3 coming up. Boy, I got to tell you, I'm very, very excited. Yeah, first 2 hours were great. Third hour, we're going to have Michael Tomasky here from the Daily Beast as a friend of Bill the entire hour, and he and I will have the chance to interview Katie McGinty, who is a Democratic candidate for governor of Pennsylvania, all-important state. Katie McGinty's got a great background. Used to be chief environmental advisor for Vice President Al Gore and President Clinton. She'd make a great governor of Pennsylvania. We'll talk to her, so stay with us for hour number 3 on Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker, TAWKR TV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live,
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, President Obama with a busy day at the White House today. At 11:05 this morning, he and the Vice President will welcome the Wounded Warrior Project's Soldier Ride to the White House. This is the 7th annual Wounded Warriors Ride. It's a bicycle ride to the White House from our Wounded Warriors. A very moving event every year. At 11:40, just following that, the President and the Vice President will meet with representatives from the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, and that's followed by a meeting with insurance executives in the Roosevelt Room of the White House. Jay Carney with his briefing at 1:45 this afternoon. I'll be there, tell you all about it tomorrow. In the next hour, as a friend of Bill, Michael Tomasky here from the Daily Beast and from the New York Review of Books. We will talk to Katie McGinty, Democratic candidate for governor of Pennsylvania.
This is the Bill Press Show.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up if you're not eligible for Social Security. So the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for my
I had my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing to, and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is Holy Week, but it's just another business week for us. Hey, good morning, everybody. Thursday, April 17. So good to see you. And welcome to this third hour of the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from our nation's capital with all the big stories of the day and your effort to tell us what it all means to you. Good to see you this Thursday morning. To join the conversation, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show, coming to you live on your local Progressive Talk radio station and on our video stream worldwide at Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. We've got the whole team assembled here this morning, led by Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, good morning. How about Thursday, our second?
Thursday, man.
Our second most favorite day of the week.
Almost Friday.
Next to Monday is when we know that we have a whole week with this team that we love
That's
so much.
That's not exactly the day I was thinking about. Alicia Cruz here. She's got the phones ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Monty Kanzler is our videographer for today, keeping us looking good on that video stream. And what do you know? We welcome back to the studio a good friend of ours. He is everywhere. The editor or publisher of Democracy Journal. A magazine, very unusual, a journal of ideas, progressive ideas. He is a columnist for the Daily Beast, and he is a frequent contributor to the New York Review of Books. I've brought in just got it yesterday.
Good man.
Michael Tomasky on the front. Are the Democrats doomed? Michael Tomasky, welcome back.
Great to be back in the chair.
It's good to see you.
Hi.
I'm glad you had enough time to come in for us this morning. And we'll get right to the news of the day. But on yesterday was the day before commemoration of the first anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombing last year. Monday is the
Monday is the race.
Monday is the race. And they were wondering, after what happened last year, would anybody dare to come back? Dave McGillivray is the director of the Boston Marathon up in Boston. He said just the opposite is true. Here he is.
Initially, we were actually wondering ourselves, will they want to come back? Will they want to come back? And they're coming back. They're coming back.
36,000 people signed up to run that marathon.
A good friend of mine is running.
How are they going to even manage 36,000 people, right?
Yeah. A good friend of mine is running, and we had drinks the other night, and he was saying that, like, he's from Boston originally. He lives here now, and as soon as everything happened last year, he immediately started trying to find a way to get into the Boston Marathon.
I think it's great.
He wanted to run
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Boston's strong, huh?
There we go. So why aren't you running, Peter?
That's it.
Where do I begin?
1 million tourists they expect to come in to line the whole parade route, which would be great.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Absolutely. That's the way to come back. Yeah. So it's just great. Michael Tomasky here for the hour. Katie McGinty joins us. She's a Democrat running for governor of Pennsylvania. We'll talk to her at the half hour. Lots to cover here. But first, Peter?
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple other stories making news. A Cox Communications employee got a shipment of fiberglass that he was expecting in San Diego. He opened it up and got more than he bargained for. There were 2 very young kittens inside.
What?
The fiberglass had been shipped from Los Angeles to San Diego. What had happened is the mother had given birth to the kittens inside the box. The person who boxed it up and shipped it didn't see the kittens. They actually shipped with the fiberglass inside the box from L.A. to San Diego, and the kittens survived.
I was going to say, I hope there's a happy ending to this.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't give that story if it was just a horrible story. No, the kittens are alive. They're doing well. They needed some attention, obviously.
Yeah.
But, they were very, very young. They still have their umbilical cords attached. And so
all right, so that's one. They've got 8 lives left.
It's true. It's true. Jimmy Carter, former president, is the first former president to come out against the Keystone XL pipeline. He and the group of Nobel laureates signed a letter urging President Barack Obama to reject the Keystone XL pipeline from Canada.
God's dead. That's it. They'll never approve it now.
Right, sure.
Now that they've got the powerful Jimmy Carter, huh? And one of the best-known artists in the world is graffiti artist Banksy, and no one knows what he looks like, what his real identity is, although that might be about to change. Closed-caption television footage in England caught a van with Banksy and an accomplice pulling up to a location, getting out, and putting up his latest installation. The installation is called Mobile Lovers. It's a graffiti painting of 2 couples hugging each other, but each of them have their cell phones up behind each other's backs, reading it while they hug. But the closed caption or closed circuit TV got footage of him, and we may actually find out who Banksy is now. I hope we don't. I like the mystery of it.
He should have known. There are cameras everywhere in England.
Yeah, no, exactly. But and cameras everywhere in Florida, as Vance McAllister, congressman, discovered as well, right? I wonder if he gets any money for his graffiti. He's so well known.
He does. No, he sells it now. He does shows all over the place. I mean, he makes a ton of money off of it. But
Michael Tomasky, as I mentioned, Michael Tomasky, in among other places, you can find him in the New York Review of Books, and this edition, or this week's contribution is: are the Democrats doomed? Are they?
This is not forever, by the way. This is just this fall.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, no, it's just a question. I don't think necessarily, but it doesn't look great because, as you know, I'm sure you've said on this show many times, if you look at the states that are in play for the Senate, there's some rough states for Democrats. There are 6 red states, right, where Democrats are either defending incumbencies or trying to hold on to a seat where 2 Democratic incumbents retired. And these are states, where Obama isn't popular, where Obamacare, which is on the mend in national polls, but probably not doing very well in Louisiana and West Virginia and South Dakota and some of these other places. So it's a tough gauntlet, no question about it, for the Senate this fall.
What's interesting is that everybody also says, so there are 36 seats up in the Senate this year. Rough road for Democrats. Republicans have to win 6, right? As I understand.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But in 2016, it's going to be just the opposite, right? It's going to be all in the Democrats' favor. So if they can just hold on for 2014, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, they're going to.
But 2014 is a real challenge.
Yeah, they should pick up a lot of seats in 16. And if you think back to the previous election, in both cases, it all makes sense, right? Because we have now these Democrats who were elected in 2008, a presidential year when Democratic voters turn out in bigger numbers. And when Obama, had a really successful election, won North Carolina, so Kay Hagan won in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of Democrats winning in 2008 of this year of really big turnout. Then in 2010, low turnout, Tea Party year, you had a lot of Republicans winning seats that would normally, quote unquote, be Democratic. So that's going to happen in 16, and it's going to swing back the other way.
Now, one bit of good news for Democrats reported this morning that in the latest filing, January through March, 3 women, Kay Hagan in North Carolina, Michelle Nunn in Georgia, and Allison Lundergan Grimes in Kentucky, all 3 of them outraised their putative Republican opponents. Allison Grimes outraging Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, which is huge. So
McConnell still has more money overall, but she's been outraising him for the last couple of quarters, and she's a couple of points ahead in most polls, and none seems to be. We don't know her opponent yet. There's going to be a primary there pretty soon, but she seems to be ahead a few points of most of those guys too.
And North Carolina has become a really problematic state, but it looks like that Kay Hagan at least has a good shot at holding on to that seat.
Could hold on, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But Michael, here's what gets me is. So the Republicans we know have said they know what 2014 is all about. It's repeal Obamacare, and they're going to ride that all the way to holding on to the House and picking up control of the Senate. Yet, as you point out, Obamacare now is really on the mend, right? More and more, 7.5 million people now. The latest CBO report said it's up to 12 million people, and it's going to cost less. So does the repeal and replace it with nothing still have the appeal that Republicans thought it would?
Well, I don't think it does. And I've been writing this for a long time. I've been saying, just wait. There's every chance that by the time this all shakes out in November, Obamacare can at least be a wash for these Democrats in these tough red states. And, everybody pointed to that Florida special election where Alex Sink, the Democrat, lost. Yeah. But if you look under, she did not lose because of Obamacare, which was the standard journalistic shorthand that everybody wrote the next day. But she didn't lose because of Obamacare. She lost because of low turnout. She lost because of some other issues. There was a private plane situation that the Republican attacked her on that she allegedly took a state plane on a private trip or something. But she didn't lose because of Obamacare. She drew even on Obamacare, all the polling showed. I think the Democrats, if they talk about it the right way, I think they can do fine with Obamacare this fall.
Alex Sink's problem was Democrats don't do a good job at special elections. 50,000 fewer Democrats voted in that election than voted in the regular election, right? And if people don't turn out to vote, you can't win an election. So Democrats are trying to counter this to the extent that there is a unified Democratic message, which is a stretch.
Yeah, as always.
They're trying to counter the repeal of Obamacare with what I would call economic populism, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, it seems to me there's a lot, and you've been writing about this, it seems to me there's a lot of potential there when you look at the Republican efforts to block the minimum wage, any increase in minimum, block any extension of unemployment benefits, block equal pay for women, right?
Yeah.
And block Obamacare. You can counter that with we're here to help the middle class.
It ought to work, right? We think it ought to work, depending on how they talk about it. But sure, minimum wage polls so well among independents, polls so well. Even among Republicans, it polls pretty well. All these things poll pretty well. And it seems like the Democrats ought to be able to get up there and say, any Democratic candidate ought to be able to get up there and say, they're blocking it. He's voting against it, or she voting against it. Ask them why.
And it's all under this umbrella of income inequality. I was looking yesterday at, and I want to get into this Thomas Piketty, is that his?
Yeah, Piketty.
Right. Paul, no?
Thomas Piketty.
Piketty, yeah. But the AFL-CIO on their website yesterday, I saw, shows that the average CEO salary today is $11.7 million, I believe. The average worker salary is $16.94 an hour. That's $35,000 a year. And the ratio today, CEO to average worker, is 331 to 1. And it's just been getting wider and wider and wider. So what can we do about it? And what should Democrats say we ought to do about it?
I don't know what we can do about it. I really
Is there any solution?
They can pass legislation. They can't mandate what salaries are going to be, but sure, they can pass regulations that require certain different kinds of approaches to executive compensation and stuff like that. But mostly they can just talk about it and see if they can get people worked up about it.
So you went to hear this Thomas Piketty, who's got this new book, and tell us how he describes it and what he recommends.
Yeah, he's the man of the moment. He's a French economist. He's been doing a lot of work on inequality over the years with an American economist named Emmanuel Saez. And so they've already established a track record in this area. But he comes out with his new book. It's brand new, and it's called Capital in the 21st Century. And the book is this really sweeping look at economies and income and wealth statistics in 20 different countries over the course of a century. And he says that it can be boiled down to something very simple, although I'm no economist, God knows, but it can be boiled down to something really simple, which is the rate of return on capital, which, that's what rich people have, capital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The rate of return on capital is always a much higher percentage than general economic growth. And so therefore, if all of us
the
and
rich get
people,
richer and the poor get poorer.
Yeah, well, the poor don't get poorer. We get the poor and the middle class grow at like this, but the rich grow like this.
Yeah.
And so, is this just going to happen forever? That's the question he poses.
And so he's saying, basically, it's built into the system, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That if you've got money, you're going to make more money than people who are now struggling to make their first $500,000 or whatever.
Exactly. Right. And so the implications are clear and they're obvious. What can a society do to ameliorate this or soften it? Well, you can do a few certain things. You can tax them more. You can do things to help the people in the middle, like raise the minimum wage, like public investment, which directs money downward and out of the hands of the top and into general society. A number of steps like that can be taken. So these are his conclusions. And, the book has really caught fire. Paul Krugman reviews it, gives it a rave review
in this same edition of the New York Review of Books, right?
New York Review. And I went to see him Tuesday at Economic Policy Institute, a good progressive think tank here in town. Packed room. You remember Tuesday morning, it was pouring like a monsoon.
Oh, yeah. Yes, yeah. That's right.
It was still a really packed room. I gather that they're out of books. They're printing more books. So it's a book that really has a chance to, it's not as if everybody in Congress is going to read this book and say, oh, my gosh, he's right. We have to do this. But, books can have influence on the way policymakers think over time. It can work its way into the system.
Income inequality, it's real. It's getting worse. What can we do about it? 866-55-PRESS, just one of the topics covered here in this hour with Michael Tomasky as a friend of Bill on the Bill Press Show. It's what the Pope and the President talked about when they got together last March 27th. Your thoughts, 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. you'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Democratic candidate for governor in Pennsylvania, Katie McGinty, joined us in the next segment of the Bill Press Show, here with Michael Tomasky as a friend of Bill. Michael, I was struck by this. I've been following this Mark Danner series in the New Yorker Review of Books.
Yeah.
His installments on Dick Cheney, and the latest, The Ruthless Dick Cheney. I mean, Cheney just doesn't give up, does he? You know, he's still out there.
He is. He said something just last week, didn't he? He every so often he comes out and just has to insert himself into things.
He's fomenting evil. I think he went on last week about Ukraine, right?
Yes,
that what we were
right.
doing was feckless policy, you call it. But the contrast between post-presidential Bush and post-presidential Cheney is really striking.
Yeah, if these guys had their way, we'd probably be at war in Ukraine already.
Oh, you know. We would have bombed them or sent in at least if Cheney had his way. Remember, Bush did not in Georgia.
Didn't do a thing. Right.
When Putin took part of the two districts of Georgia or whatever.
Right.
Bush did not, even though I'm sure Cheney at the time was advising him to Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's teach them a lesson, right? Telling you, it doesn't stop. All right. We'll be back with Katie McGinty. She's running a Democrat, running for one of 4 Democrats running for the Democratic nomination for governor of Pennsylvania. Coming up next on the Bill Press Show.
Is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
On a Thursday, April 17, 33 minutes after the hour, Coming to you live from our nation's capital on our studio on Capitol Hill, right in the middle of the action. Well, not much action these days with the House and the Senate out of town. But we're here regardless, and brought to you today by the American Federation of Teachers, the good men and women of the AFT, Teachers of America, under President Randy Weingarten, making a difference in the classrooms of America every day. You bet. You can find out more about their good work at aft.org. Joined this hour as a friend of Bill by Michael Tomasky from the Daily Beast and the New York Review of Books and Democracy magazine. Michael, always good to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here.
And I'm so excited to welcome to our program person that I got to know well back in... Whoa, I guess we lost her there.
Sounds like we need to get her back.
While we are redialing, Katie McGinty is a Democratic candidate for governor in Pennsylvania, where even a lot of Republicans are unhappy with the incumbent Governor Tom Corbett, who is a Tea Party Republican who doesn't quite fit the image of Pennsylvania. Huh? I mean, there have been Republican governors of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Tom Ridge, for example, right? Think of it, right? Who's a moderate Republican, and I guess gets credit for being a pretty good governor of Pennsylvania. But Corbett.
Well, Corbett was one of those unusual 2010 Tea Party wave people, who, wouldn't have won unless, if not for those really unusual and weird circumstances. So usually Pennsylvania governors serve 2 terms and they trade, Democrat 8 years, Republican 8 years. But there's a real chance to take him out, I guess, this time.
Tom Corbett running for a re-election. Katie McGinty, one of 4 Democrats who is running against him. We're trying to reconnect with her. By the way, when you talk about, I just think about governors of Pennsylvania. I don't know any governor that's had the impact that Ed Rendell has had, right?
Right.
I mean, he was a great governor, and has gone on now to MSNBC. I don't know what other kind of consulting or political work he's doing. He was head of the Democratic National Committee.
Yeah, and a terrific mayor of Philadelphia before he became
that's
governor.
Right, mayor of Philadelphia before that.
Really innovative mayor.
Yeah. So you look for that kind of leadership on the part. While we're waiting to connect with Katie. In your article, Are Democrats Doomed? Did you look at governor's races around the country, or just?
No, I just concentrated on Congress. I'll get to governor's races a little bit later.
Yeah.
But there are some interesting ones.
Some very interesting governors, very important governor's races around the country. None more important, as I mentioned, in Pennsylvania. And back in the Clinton years, when I was Democratic State Chair of California, one of the people in the Clinton administration that I got to know best was the chief environmental advisor for Vice President Al Gore at the time, Katie McGinty, who is now a Democratic candidate for governor in Pennsylvania, joining us on our news line this morning. Hello, Katie. Good to reconnect with you.
Good morning. How are you? Great to hear your voice.
Thank you. It's good to hear yours, too. I have to ask you first, because I've lost touch, what have you been up to since the Clinton White House and the Al Gore years, and what would qualify you to run for governor of Pennsylvania?
Well, listen, I've had a great privilege and a great run in terms of private sector and government. Private sector have been involved in investing in renewable energy, clean water projects, both with my friend Al Gore after that interesting and unpredictable end to the 2000 presidential campaign.
Boy.
We won't go there. And then also as a leader in a couple of businesses here in Pennsylvania in the sustainability green energy space. And in between all of that, I served as Secretary of Environmental Protection in Pennsylvania. And no offense to my friends in California, but we kind of really got out there and compete and won, and we were #1 in the country in wind energy jobs and #2 in solar energy jobs when I was Secretary.
Well, good for you. Well, of course, that's because I had already left California, Katie. You know that.
But a little good competition is terrific. And really, those are the issues, though, that are at the heart of this campaign. I mean, Pennsylvania is a state with incredible assets and resources, but we have fallen under this Republican governor to 48th in the country in job growth and dead last in our region in private sector jobs. Really extraordinary performance at a time when the rest of the country is growing and has been on the mend economically. We've really been suffering.
You think of Pennsylvania as a state of heavy manufacturing, particularly with the steel industry and everything. Is there potential there for renewable energy jobs in Pennsylvania?
Well, that was completely my focus when I was secretary in terms of, we were going to get into the renewable energy game, but in Pennsylvania, yes, people will take action on behalf of the environment, but it always helps if there's a very clear economic upside. So we went out there and attracted the biggest renewable energy manufacturing companies in the world and got them to locate in Pennsylvania. Gamesa, a Spanish wind energy company, literally 1,000 manufacturing jobs. And this Governor Corbett, proposes or puts himself forward as a conservative, yet when it came to supporting tax cuts for wind energy that would have saved 1,000 manufacturing jobs in our state, it was all ideology. Nope, can't be for renewable energy, stood against those tax cuts, and we lost hundreds of jobs.
Wow. So the primary is May 20, correct, Katie?
It is indeed 5 weeks from Tuesday.
Oh, man.
Not that I'm counting.
No. This is crunch time. And you're campaigning today with another good friend, Robert Kennedy Jr.?
We are, yes, indeed. And it's a wonderful day. One, just no greater environmental leader than Robert Kennedy Jr. for sure. But second, very special day. It's 50 years ago almost to this month that Bobby's dad, Robert F. Kennedy Sr., gave his first public speech after the assassination of JFK. And he gave that speech in Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is where we are going. And, by the way, it was the first public school named for former President Kennedy, and Bobby Kennedy oversaw that ceremony. And it really was the speech and the event and the outpouring of people's hearts to him that convinced him to jump back into public life.
Wow. Well, while you're in Scranton, don't forget to remember Scranton's favorite son, right? Joe Biden.
Well, indeed. Joe Biden, absolutely. And he still graces us with his presence and always his terrific sense of humor.
Yeah. Michael.
Yeah, hi, Katie. Michael Tomasky here. First of all, I'm the brother of Susan Tomasky and your old friend, so I'm sure that...
She's a dear friend and has been a great supporter to me in this campaign.
Well, I was going to ask if she's written you a check. I'm going to see her this weekend, and maybe I'll nudge her. But let me ask you a journalistic question, if I may. The Medicaid money, how big an issue is that in this race, and where does that stand in Pennsylvania? I know that Corbett sort of agreed to take it conditionally. Where does everything stand, and how big an issue is that among the four of you Democrats?
Well, Michael, I really want to press this point hard. Corbett is not at all doing the smart or sensible thing or serving the people of Pennsylvania in his proposal. He had gotten a lot of pressure for being a lone standout against the expansion of Medicaid. I mean, we have a unified voice here from those who advocate for the elderly to business interests who have been clear that for Pennsylvania, saying yes to the expansion of Medicaid means 600,000 Pennsylvanians would have health care that don't have it now, and a $500 million a year savings to our general fund. So this is one of those issues where it's not to like. Finally, feeling the pressure, the governor has proposed something that he calls Healthy Pennsylvania. It's nothing of the sort, and really what it amounts to is voucherizing Medicaid, where he'd like to take federal tax dollars and then say to poor families, you know, here's a couple $100. Good luck going out and negotiating with private insurance companies. I mean, this is a recipe for failed health coverage. We won't have that more expensive health coverage and fewer people covered. So it's not Medicaid at all, and it is really just something that might work for private insurance companies. It certainly doesn't work for the taxpayers of Pennsylvania.
And we see this report just yesterday. Surprise, surprise. The states that have opted into Medicaid, the rate of uninsured has gone down considerably more than in other states.
It's true. And, you know, on the promising side of things here, Pennsylvania has a thriving life sciences, healthcare, biotechnology, and medical devices industry. If we had gotten out in front and built our own healthcare exchange, we could have supported those great businesses in Pennsylvania in designing a health exchange that really maximizes economic opportunity for those good businesses in our Commonwealth. But we didn't. We've fallen behind there, and so we're left with fewer people covered. We're left with the one-size-fits-all that may not be the best fit for Pennsylvania and our businesses, and we've left a lot of economic opportunity on the table.
Well, Katie, it's exciting to see you doing so well. We wish you well. And how, in this critical 5 weeks coming up, how can our viewers, our listeners all across the country chime in and find out more about your campaign, and most importantly, maybe send a little help your way? What's the best way?
Well, I'd be very grateful. Visit me on my website, which is KatieMcGinty.com, and it's KatieMcGinty.com. And we'd love to have you join the parade. We're on our way to a big victory on May 20th.
All right. We will put that link up on our website. Katie, good luck. Say hello to Robert Kennedy Jr. for us, and Godspeed. Look forward to good things.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Really appreciate it. All the best now. Bye-bye.
Katie McGinty she's a candidate on fire.
Go get her.
Yeah, she's got it. Katie McGinty, KatieMcGinty.com, a link on our website. Back with Michael Tomasky. And your calls. Get back to this income inequality conversation, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, But after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, 12 minutes before the top of the hour on this Thursday, April 17. Friend of Bill, Michael Tomasky here in studio. Michael, again, good to have you with us.
Nice to be here.
It's been too long. Welcome back. And Peter Ogburn, of course, here always.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. I had to get this
Sidekick
in.
of Bill.
Yes, exactly.
SOB.
I can't believe it took us this long to think of that.
Yeah, I know.
I'll wear that title with pride, sir. I had to get this story in because yesterday we found out some sort of stunning news. Whenever the Supreme Court is in session, a lot of journalists turn to SCOTUS blog. They sort of just give the direct feed of what's happening in the Supreme Court. They don't give a lot of opinion on it. It's just, here's what's happening. Turns out yesterday they were denied press credentials to cover the Supreme Court. Which is a big deal.
Denied by the Supreme Court?
Denied by the Supreme Court. They said that they are going to appeal that decision. They may even litigate the issue if it goes that far, because they feel very strongly that they should be in there. And a lot of journalists feel the same way.
Yeah.
That is
if there's going to be
funny.
one voice of the Supreme Court, it should be SCOTUS blog.
I mean, everybody I know, left and right, when an opinion is coming down, you go to SCOTUS blog.
The SCOTUS blog.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in fact, I thought it was sort of like the official court blog.
Right.
No, it's not. It's an independent thing.
Yeah. It's
very weird.
Right down the middle. Could not be any more just fact. It's like the C-SPAN of Supreme Court reporting.
Right.
It's just right down the middle. This is what's going on. So it's weird that they didn't give them that.
In the media department, Michael, should the Guardian and the Post have been rewarded with a Pulitzer Prize for publishing the secret documents released by Edward Snowden?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's journalism. Name me a bigger political story last year. You can't. I mean, this is a huge story. So, of course, yeah. And I'm really I used to work at The Guardian, and I love The Guardian, still loyal to it, so I'm really happy for them. And Bart Gellman is a great reporter of the Post. So, yeah, of course, there's no question.
The idea, with Peter King and others saying they were accomplices, right, in treason and everything is just ridiculous.
It's all ridiculous, yeah. I mean, I'm not... I don't think Snowden, I can see different arguments about Snowden, but as far as The Guardian and The Washington Post go, absolutely no question.
Absolutely did the right thing.
Slam dunk.
You follow this politics stuff very closely. What do you think of the Republican lineup so far? I mean, it looks like you have one grown-up, Jeb Bush, and then a whole bunch of midgets again, like we had the last time.
What do I think of it? I keep stopping myself and pinching myself when I think about, Hillary Clinton getting 380 electoral votes. I have to stop myself. But, look, Rand Paul is the front runner, and he's tactically, he's really smart, I think. He knows how to position himself. He's done certain things to cater to the base that his father never did. Like
exactly.
He's got a little bit of reach out to evangelicals.
Much smarter at it than his father was.
Much smarter. He's got a little bit of reach out to evangelicals, which covers him in Iowa, so he might be able to perform respectably there. And then he's got this libertarian streak that gets him outside of the right-wing box a little bit, even though he's very firmly in that box.
Yep.
But it gets him a little bit outside of it, and it gets young people interested in him because he has a slightly offbeat position on drug legalization. And then he talked about, sentencing disparities. So he might, fish for a few black votes, a few more African-American votes than most Republicans get. He's tactically very smart, but I don't see how he can possibly win a general election.
Does Jeb Bush get in it?
He just seems like he doesn't really want to. If
he does.
Yeah. I mean, if he gets in, it'll be because of enormous pressure and against his own instincts. And can you really run for president if you really don't have that deep, deep hunger for it? I don't know. Now, Christie's not out of it, right? He's not out of it.
I would agree with that.
You know, I mean, we'll see what the federal prosecutor comes up with, and, you know, he may well be out of it. I do think Christie's image has been irreparably damaged. Already, I think we can say irreparably damaged. He doesn't have that status anymore as this uber, you know, transpartisan truth teller. He doesn't have that status anymore. But he hasn't really sunk that much in the polls. He's sunk, but not all that much.
And I also don't think he's put this whole bridge thing behind him.
No.
You know, I mean, he's done a pretty good job of getting away from it, but he's got a ways to go before everybody goes, okay, we're done with that.
I'll tell you. All I know is it makes a lot of fodder and a lot of fun for talk radio. Michael Tomasky, always good to have you with us. Thank you, my friend.
Do we have 3 seconds to mention my book?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes,
okay.
the ebook, it came out for the 40th anniversary.
50th anniversary.
The book is The Beatles and America. Yes, right?
Yeah.
Then and now.
What am I doing writing about music? I know more about music than I know about politics, as my conservative readers would readily agree.
Yeah,
If you want a link to the book, we'll put it on Twitter at BP Show.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michael. Good to see you.
Thanks a million.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, some pretty shocking numbers out yesterday from the AFL-CIO about income inequality in this country. Get this. Today, the average American worker makes $16.94 an hour. That's $35,000 a year. In 2013, the average CEO made $11.7 million a year. Or get this, the ratio between CEO pay to the average worker pay is 331 to 1. The ratio between CEO pay to a minimum wage worker, 774 to 1. No doubt about it. Income inequality in this country is a serious problem. It's only getting worse. And the least we could do about it is raise the minimum wage. You got it. That's our Thursday show. Have a good one. See you back here again tomorrow.